This question, I guess, has a little more specifically to do with democratic socialism, which we don't have in this country now. And my question is, can a democratic socialist society come about without initiating force against people?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I think it comes down tonight to a question of empirical examples. I think as much as possible, if we can drag it into the real world and out of abstractions. I mean, as Herb has pointed out, theory is good, but only if it accounts for the evidence. Here's the evidence. Take a look at Europe. In Scandinavian countries, extensive social democracy, Sweden, Denmark, Norway. Those are countries that most people consider at least a mixed economy. Not true socialism, not government ruling everything. That's precisely the example of socialism that we support, established through democracy. And that is the key for what our version of socialism is about, is democratic control through the majority of the population making decisions over their own lives. And the examples of this are numerous in Europe. And you can see places where it goes back and forth. For a period of time, people decide, well, maybe we'll have a little more government. We want a little more of that turn towards free market. And that happens. When that happens, as we saw in this country, we get Goldman Sachs running things. That's not an improvement. When you deregulate banks, we had the greatest problem in economic history since the 1930s in this country. We can have a lot of problems when government doesn't regulate and government doesn't take over. So, both cases.
Well, my question had to do with the initiation of force, and you used examples in European countries. And in European countries, you're forced to pay a very high tax rate. So, force is being initiated against citizens there. They have to pay the tax or go to jail.
People make decisions on a democratic vote to decide if I'm going to use in a family. If I decide we're going to move across town, then some people may not want to go. But the family as a whole makes that kind of decision. Yeah, of course, there's always going to be people who have difference of opinions. That's the nature of democracy.
But I'm not in your family, so you wouldn't force your neighbor to go on that. So you're saying that if the majority votes for something, say to take money away from a minority or raise a tax on a certain group of people, then you're saying it's okay to initiate force against them, since there was the majority said it was okay.
Yeah, I think it depends on what we define as force. I mean, I think what one person regards as force, I am willing to pay taxes because I feel I get my money's worth. Europeans in general are willing to pay much higher taxes than Americans are because they feel that the benefits they're getting from it are great. Many people say, San Diego is particularly unusual. Namely, we want, as we receive government services, we want the government services, and we're all social democrats when it comes to receiving government services. When it comes to paying for them, we're all libertarians. So one needs a balance, and what one calls force, what you're calling force, I just call being part of an organized, highly developed society.
Well, I understand that you like to pay tax and feel like you get something out of it, and I respect your opinion for that. But I don't think I get the services back from what I'm forced to pay into it. So you think that it's okay that I'm forced to pay for that tax because the use of force happens. For instance, property tax. If I don't pay my property tax, then eventually it might take 3 or 4 years, but sheriffs will come to my house and kick me out.
Both the market and government works on a basis of force.
But
it works on a basis of power. Both of those are institutions of power. Classic sociology.
We're going to have to cut this question off. Okay. I know it's kind of the crux of the whole thing, so I hate to cut it off, but maybe you can find a way to follow up in the next question or something.